Coming up on Small Town Charm, Clown Town, USA. We're living in it. Let's talk about it. It's all about pearl clutching, virtue signaling, and social media, basically on Facebook. It's coming up on Small Town Charm. Stay tuned. Well, hey there. Welcome into Small Town Charm. It's been a while since we've talked to you, so we're happy to see you. I hope you missed us as much as we missed you. My name is Daniel. We got Mike. We got Chris. As always, if you like the show, please subscribe or leave an honest review, leave a rating if you're on a podcast. Any of that stuff helps us out a lot, and so we definitely would appreciate it. All right, so it's been for us, 2 weeks since we've recorded an episode? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So I know that as far as when the podcast came out, it's been about a week, probably about a week or so since one's come out. And so it feels like for us, it's been a lot longer than maybe for everybody watching or listening.
We took a little break for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Back in Studio A.
Ordered up some gear. I have to wait for it to come in.
Yeah, we got some nicer stuff, so hopefully it sounds better, and maybe sounding better makes us look better. I don't know. Yeah. You guys matched tonight. I just realized that. So
I went super casual. I was just hanging up Christmas lights. Well, I was like, I'll do a podcast. But.
Yeah, I'm just glad I have my slippers on at least, so I'm halfway there. But yeah, so there's stuff's been going on. We had Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you guys.
Yeah,
Didn't say that. So yeah, Thanksgiving happened for us. So we're all, before we started, you guys were talking about some crazy stuff personally, just like how the world has gone crazy. But I think that's kind of what we want to talk about a little bit tonight or today is the social media world, things like that. But I think a good context before we get into that is probably going to be just kind of what's happened in the town over the last week or so. I know there's a meeting. I think we missed. Did we miss a meeting? We missed a meeting of some kind since the last time.
A workshop.
Okay. Yeah. And that was on was that a Tuesday night workshop or was that a Thursday? It doesn't really matter. It was early in the week.
Yeah.
And that was just after I think our last episode came.
Yeah. Out. They're non-voting meetings. So, the zoning, it was kind of weird. I watched it. It was basically, so Lisa Garamoni's she's done. She only has like 10 minutes left in her tenure. Nolensville is going to. So next meeting is December 1st, I think, right? Mm-hmm. So Nolensville is going to honor the Nolensville Little League team. They're going to give them a key to the city, and because it happened during Lisa and Wendy's tenure, they're going to invite Lisa and Wendy to kick off a meeting. Once that celebration's over with, Jessica and Kate take the bench. So that being said, the workshop was kind of like a lame duck meeting. They probably could have skipped it because they started talking about the zoning ordinance, but two of the voting members weren't there, right? And it's like, well, it all hinges on those two anyway. So it's like, well, Lisa's up there, Wendy's up there. They're not going to vote on it, so there's no point of discussing it with them. The two new commissioners aren't there. So it was just one of those meetings where it was just a Q&A with Brian Wright from TPEDC. And
I think there's an important thing to highlight that we're kind of starting to draw a little bit of attention to, but Mike's freaked out by the mic.
I moved the mic a little closer to you. I know. We all have.
So there's an important note in there that you just mentioned, which is the fact that the zoning ordinance that's going to be voted on now, it's finally made it to the BOC, is being voted on by Jessica and Kate.
Right.
So new commissioners coming in have never had a chance to vote on anything related to this, have attended meetings, I think off and on a little bit over the last 6 months. So like, hopefully they've read the thing.
They made posts.
Yeah, they made some Facebook posts.
They posted some videos and deleted some videos.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to be watching very carefully to see what kind of commentary they bring in, because they have not had a lot of time to deal with the actual document or have access to the resources at town hall the way a commissioner does, to be able to actually kind of get into the background of things and the nuts and bolts of how this all works.
Do they get access to stuff like now, like they've got voted in, like would they get access to some like things so that they come into that first meeting more educated? I know, like, it's weird because they haven't been sworn in yet, but like you'd think they'd get, I don't know.
I hope that they're on some type of text chain or email chain with the staff, right?
Right.
At least to kind of run through the basics of the zoning ordinance.
You'd think it would be like, when a president takes over before he actually is in office, there's like a several month period of like briefings.
Right.
He gets like into classified information and gets all those protocols. And
they have the NEGs, right? The NEGs are probably that's their.
I think that's what we're all hinting at the end of the day. Is like, so are they going to come?
Tommy Duggar has them all looped in. Don't worry,
they're prepped.
I have no fear.
Yeah,
but I that is personally what I'm going to be watching for. Is do they come in and not having any experience with this, or it's their first meeting? Are they coming in with like actual fresh ideas that they've pondered and thought about on their own, or are they just starting off fresh with talking points from their campaign supporters? That'll be the very key thing to watch for.
Yeah,
the first meeting.
I do wonder though if they come in with talking points from their campaign supporters. How are you going to be able to tell the difference between those two things? I mean, you know what I mean? It's like they could say that was their platform, whatever it is. So I'll be obviously curious about the zoning ordinance, that whole thing. But there's other decisions they have to make that day too, and I know that you can't expect anybody to know everything about every issue all the time. But this is kind of like I've spent part of my life in the music world. They always say, you get your whole life to write your first album, and then you get like 2 years to write your second. Because they've had quote unquote their whole lives to prepare for this first meeting, and so now I guess after that, I almost be more curious about the second meeting, how that goes when they only have the normal amount of time.
Mm-hmm. I'm secretly looking forward to the Goodall vote, right? Because like the whole campaign was based on no density or less density, more roads type of thing, right? Yeah. But Goodall, that's a massive density boost, but it also fixes your road. So how do you vote on that? Like, is your first actual vote going to be to put a subdivision on a legacy farm behind the oldest subdivision in town? And how do you justify it? Because at this point, they kind of have to, because roads. Yeah. That's a massive road infrastructure project.
Well, and I don't know if it's going to come out at this meeting, but I've seen some early projections from Victor. He's done some calculations on like, okay, if we went with, zoning map 1, which is like the originally proposed zoning map from TPUDC.
Right.
Here's like what the tax revenue ramifications of that are. If we go with zoning map 2 or Joel's version, where it's like, drastically cutting down density kind of in scale. I think the number I saw was like, if we go with like the third iteration, which is like density is like half of what was originally proposed.
So which one is that? Is that Joel?
I think that's Joel's. That's amended? Joel's amended map.
The Miller amended.
Yes. Right. So the Miller amended map. If we go with that version, which was just presented, I think it's like calculated based on we need to complete 3 road projects, and in order to do it, even with growing the town, we'd still have to like triple our tax rate.
Right.
So the interesting thing is going to be like how do people who fought against density face the fact, like when numbers are actually presented to them, that it's either we grow the town in a certain way, or you're going to you're basically signing us up knowing that you're going to have to raise taxes down the road.
So we should have this conversation, because as much as people would love for us to come out and say like we are a machine, we think alike. We don't, right? Remember when they were increasing the tax rate?
Oh, yeah.
Like you and I had a pretty significant disagreement there.
Right.
I was more so like, hey, we're gonna end up at $1 one day. Like if we keep this going, we're gonna end up at $1 rate one day. Like Fairview is like 78 cents or something like that. Like we're gonna be right there. Like we can't sustain our need for infrastructure and services with our current zoning back at the time, like a year or two ago. And you were like, no, if we don't need it, don't do it. I think that's a really great discussion, because if we don't land the zoning like Franklin or Brentwood has, and Brentwood kind of less so than Brentwood. Brentwood is inflated because of property values. But if we don't have a very effective zoning ordinance, we are going to have our tax rate that's close to $1. Like there's just like in 2022, in the 21st century town, there's things that you have to do as a municipality that you didn't have to do 30, 40 years ago, that now you do have to do. Like you do have to have a public works. At some point, you're going to have a parks department. You have to have a state-of-the-art police department. Like we are committed to a fire department. Like we're like at some point, like we already have plows. Like you're going to have to buy salt and more plow trucks. More residents are gonna strain roads, and you are going to have to build roads. Like it will increase, and if you can't pay for it with the growth that you're seeing now, then you're just gonna pay for it forever with a new tax rate that's gonna settle somewhere around $1. When the fire department was coming in back when Adam Spencer was chief, so it was after Brian Moat, Adam Spencer became chief, and then he was trying to get funding for equipment, and he had me run some data, and it was basically like I think we ended up with like 60 towns in Middle Tennessee.
Oh yeah, I remember that spreadsheet.
Yeah, and it was like the median rate for towns our size was like over $1.
Yep.
And the reason why I say it's probably going to be around $1, maybe probably like Fairview is like 70 something cents. The only reason why we will be able to keep it under $1 is because of our property values. But those property values, so if your home is worth a lot more, we also have to, as a town, we have to provide services that are above average. Because if I buy a home for $1 million, there's some things that I, as a citizen, will expect. I will expect a nicely paved road.
Sure.
I will expect a nice library, a nice park. Like if those things didn't matter to me, if I paid $400,000 for a home, I would live in Dixon and I would understand the circumstance the town's in. But if you move to Williamson County, your expectations are Pickerton Park and Franklin, the Brentwood Library, right? Concord Road or Mac Hatcher Road, right? Those are your expectations. That's what you're signing up for. And eventually, if you don't get those things, there's going to be another turnover. Like Better Knowlesville wasn't a turnover because we wanted better representation. Better Knowlesville was a turnover because the people that moved here realized like this is Clown Town.
Right.
This is Clown Town. These people they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
Like get new people in there.
Yep.
That's the name of this episode.
Clown Town.
Clown Town, USA.
Yeah.
No, I mean you're 100% right, Mike, and I guess I have to ask the question. So do we agree now on this?
No, because you didn't want to raise the rate.
Right.
But now
I told you that we don't need the rate hike to be able to afford the fire department per se.
Right.
But we need the rate hike because eventually we will have to hike our rate to be solvent.
Unless we can get density in place.
And it's not
that doesn't require it.
And it's not the density. So that's almost like saying, do you sell your town to apartment buildings?
No,
to be
yeah,
solvent?
I think it goes back to the discussion of like, unless we can provide density that brings certain kinds of
commercial. You need
right.
commercial.
That brings certain kinds of commercial, which ultimately provides the most dollars per acre in terms of tax revenue. That comes from we're still talking about tax dollars. It's just whose pockets do those come from?
Right.
Do they come from businesses, and therefore it's like sales tax paid by citizens, or does it come from your property tax?
Right.
You know,
Well,
it's just a little different way to skin the cat.
The density thing is you trade the density, and density is not always bad because the town does get state sales like tax share, right? So like for every resident, we get federal funding, we get state funding, and we also get sales tax dollars from the state.
Right.
So the more residents we have, the more money we bring in anyway. But the density, so there's one of two ways to grow your commercial base. You can either plant a Walmart and let it rain, right? Just let Walmart take care of you until they leave and then you die. Like Walmart is the 21st century steel mill, right? Like it's profitable when they're there, and when they leave, your town dies. Or you build something like Franklin, where it's your core district that's always going to be there, not because there's cool, nice businesses in there. It's because it's so versatile. And it's if that one business leaves, that place is so desirable that it will be filled up by the end of the month with something that's as profitable.
Right.
Like that's the way you do it. When a Walmart leaves, like you get a Halloween store once a year.
Right.
Like that's about it, and a bunch of that brings in crime. Like I would love. I'm actually gonna go home and Google this. What sells more crack? The back dock of a Walmart or a courtyard of a mixed-use development?
Yeah.
Well, I think kind of the point you were getting at when you said to Mike, are we agreeing now, or whatever that is we're getting close to the point where it doesn't really matter if you agree or not, because the numbers are going to say what you have to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think especially the two new candidates are going to have to deal sooner rather than later with the reality of a decision that is based on something, a train, coming down the tracks, staring them in the face. You have to make a decision right now, and the facts are saying you're either going to have to raise taxes or you might have made the wrong decision.
Yeah, I mean,
with density.
I just think that this first meeting, maybe the second meeting, but definitely like they are going to get a harsh dose of reality, and they're going to see the numbers, and like that's been something that has been just vehemently avoided in all of the debates online and stuff like that leading up to the election. Is nobody ever wanted to say, well, here's like, if we don't go with this style of zoning for the town of Nolensville, here's what the reality really means. And so, I mean, fine. Maybe people in Nolensville are going to be fine with a property tax raise. I have a hard time believing people aren't going to raise their hands and say, like, what are you talking about?
Well, this is like the impact
You
fee
just told us we
discussion.
didn't have to have apartments.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you didn't, but the problem is they never told people like, well, in order to not have apartments, that means you have to pay for the privilege of not having apartments.
Right,
And that's
yeah.
going to come out of everyone's pocket.
This is the impact fee discussion all over again. The difference is, it's the opposite. It's now the town. We were all screaming the town's not going to lose out on something. Now we're saying the town is going to lose out on something if what you're saying is right. Not you, but the
Right.
other people. If what you're saying is right, then we're going to be the ones holding a bag. And the great thing about the impact fee thing was that nothing bad happened. And when some of us kind of said, told you so, like someone's got to eat crow for this because they lied or were uninformed and decided to talk about it anyway, we got screamed at and said we were bullies because we weren't letting people get away with lying. The difference now is if those same people are wrong again, there is no getting out. No one's being a bully when they scream about their property taxes. And that's not you can't get out of that one. It's
Right.
Everyone's going to be suffering. Suffering is a word that's maybe extreme, but everyone's going to be unhappy. And you can't say, oh, you're all being bullies to me because I was wrong.
Right.
Now you're just going to get called out on it. And there's no excuse for the
No,
decision you make.
and I think like the three of us and a lot of other people were, being very vocal online during the election to try to, like, we were pointing out these things and trying to get the candidates who are running to say, like, well, it just at least admit the reality exists and come out with a platform or a statement, at least, of like, what is your plan, knowing these things are going to happen. And
I wanted them on a record so I can keep showing the screenshot of saying like,
Right.
you promised me no property tax.
Right.
There is a property tax increase coming.
Right.
If we adopt a dumb zoning ordinance, there is 100% a tax hike coming. Like, I mean, that's without question. Like
But-
that is my impact fee moment when I
Yep.
came out every single time and said we're not losing our impact fees. Like we will raise our property taxes if we don't do a good job with the zoning.
Yep.
Like the 100%.
So it'll just be interesting to
and-
see where it lands, because I don't think that either one of them is as prepared to have that conversation day one as they've led people to believe. Like if they weren't willing to come into the election campaign season with a plan already laid out, I highly doubt they're going to come into the first meeting with like a 10-point plan of like, here's why I'm going to vote against this type of zoning, and here are the ways that we're going to still solve this massive problem that is going to affect Nolensville for years to come.
One thing we kind of got close to it last episode, or one of the last episodes. We didn't get all the way there though, and it was brought up to me. I think some of you might have seen it too. We talked about how they're going to elect Haley mayor or vote Haley mayor. Right. We didn't talk about like what they might do with the planning commission and some of the other pieces, and how the planning commission could change. And so, kind of leading off of what Chris you just mentioned about just seeing what kind of plan they put in place if they vote against this zoning ordinance. What are they going to say in its stead? Could they be sending it back to a planning commission that looks drastically different so they can get something that they really want?
100%.
How great would it be? So like how great would it be that when Haley becomes mayor, she goes and says, you know what, we're not doing the whole you get a member. Like I pick it all. You guys pick the BOC member, and then it's my I hope one day we get there to where the mayor of the town actually picks the PC, because the way it works now is trash. I tried to pin down when the election was happening. I tried to pin down the Jessica and Kate on who they're gonna pick as their delegates, and they traditional answer like I haven't given it thought yet. I'll like once I win, I'll evaluate. Like that's crap. You already have somebody in mind. Like I wasn't even running a real race, and I already had somebody in mind for you know who would amplify my thought process up there, right? Because you want that control. If you're given that control, you want that control. So, but I do hope that one day we go back to the original way or the state lawful way of the mayor picking the entire PC, and we elect mayors based on their ability to seat the PC with members that are qualified, not somebody that's going to just run your agenda. Because that's what it is now. Like every BOC member that I think, with the exception of Lisa and Joe, I think they did a good job of sticking to people that had experience in that area. But everybody else, even Derek Adams, has stacked that PC with the members that they were allowed to put on there that did amplify their own agenda. Like, why wouldn't you?
Sure,
like if everything hinges on this recommendation body, like you have to get your voice up there, right? So
no, I think you're right, and I think what's a little scary to me is, so we thought that the current PC was political, just simply by the fact that every BOC member got their own pick up there, right. And that was meant to try to avoid politics, but in reality, it actually created more politics.
It's like a secondary BOC.
Yeah, because you just had people up there that were basically just supporting their BOC, person who picked them.
It was sides. It was 100. Those two sides. There was a side for smart growth, and there was a side for no growth.
Even if Haley becomes mayor and then just takes the power that's legally hers, but if she just decides to go back to kind of a strong mayor like type of pick, obviously like it will become very political because it'll be very one-sided. But also like I don't know what we're calling the sides at this point, but like the side that is very
smart and wrong.
Well, that's even if she doesn't do that though, it could.
You
just
still have three BOC members that are very anti-growth.
Yep, you're gonna have Kate and Jessica pick their people. You're gonna end up with Tommy Duggar, Jason Patrick on the planning commission.
Tommy Duggar actually got asked to be on the PC back when BN took over, or BN took the vote, and it was time to set up a new PC. I know that Tommy Duggar got asked.
Yeah,
I don't think he has. I don't think he has the guts to do it actually, because if he couldn't, he was second behind Larry Feltz as far as the amount of insane nonsense that came out of his mouth.
I don't know about that.
Well, since then, even though when he's been doing these speeches at public comments, that are just pure insanity.
Remember the Bluetooth speaker that couldn't work? We can't figure out a Bluetooth speaker.
So I'm just saying, I don't know if he can handle the environment that has. The political environment that now exists in the town, partially thanks to him.
Sure.
I don't know if he wants to stand up to that level of scrutiny again in this environment. It's one thing when it was supposedly 8 to 10 people complaining and then an election happened. Now so I'm saying it tongue in cheek that he's going to end up there, but it also kind of wouldn't surprise me if he couldn't resist one more run at being the guy with a face and a microphone. it's coming from a guy with a face and a microphone.
Yeah,
right
I
now.
don't know. Like, I definitely like agree with you that I think that there's enough connections there that, given who just won this election, that obviously like they had some of these key players from past governments involved. So it would make sense that it's kind of like a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and this was like Tommy and Jason and maybe some other people's play to get back into a seat where they could have an opinion publicly. But ultimately, I think if that happened, like the internet in Nolensville would lose its freaking mind.
Yeah, it would
like,
explode.
like we would not know what to do with it, and that is a perfect segue.
Yeah.
To talk about where that would happen.
Yep. We'll take a quick break to reset cameras, but I do want to say real quick because we have a minute left. For our show's sake, I do kind of hope that happens.
For sure.
Oh, dude.
Yes, it would give us
So
ample amounts of material.
like, personally, I'm to the point where I know nothing's gonna work. Like I've seen this movie before. I've logged on to this when this movie was playing 4 years ago. I know that like I don't really care what happens in the zoning ordinance. I don't really care what happens with the PC. Like I know it's gonna be a crap show for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. They can't screw it up because their entire game plan is to not do anything at all.
Right.
No, 100%.
Don't touch anything. Don't press any button. I'm like, all right, then we pause for 2 years.
That's why I love our new sign, the cheap seats, because like I literally am going into this next session, so to speak, or the next iteration of BOC as if we're sitting in the bleachers, just like watching.
Oh yeah,
like the most insane thing in the arena.
gonna
About
be-
to
Yeah.
This show is not going anywhere.
No.
This wasn't just put together because of an election. We've
Yeah.
got this is better for our show the way the
Yes.
election turned out.
Yes.
So we're not going anywhere.
Can't wait.
But we are going to go somewhere for a second right now, and then we'll be right back. All right, we're back. So as Chris, you mentioned, people freaking out online.
Yes.
That was a perfect segue into kind of what we wanted to talk about today a little bit, which is just this might be the key phrase, the number one thing I've said on this show so far in its life is I don't even know where to start. You know, the online world. Here's the thing, people are just people. That's my opinion. Like, I don't say anything online that I would not say to a person to their face. And I think a lot of people assume and they project onto like me or other people, to Mike, I know because of having the blog. And then Chris, I know some of the things you've said or been accused of saying or actually have said, that people project onto you that like you're doing that because maybe they wouldn't say the same things in person that they say online.
Right.
Maybe. But I don't do that. And so I know that there's a couple of groups on Facebook. Of course, the 411 is like, how many? It's like 12,000 members. I mean,
I think it's like 15 now.
yeah. Which I mean, I know a ton of those people don't even live here anymore. So or don't live here at all,
Yeah.
right? So like, it's who knows how many
Well, it's
people.
impossible for them to live here. There's 15,000 people here, and like
Half of them are
2/3
kids.
are kids, right?
Yeah.
I hope it's not packed with like first graders. In
Right.
there.
Yeah, but we've talked here and there on this show about reactions. I know we used social media, we used Facebook to our advantage when we did the Better Nolensville stuff. But we've mentioned here and there reactions to things we've done or said, or the way that some candidates have used social media. But there's a couple of pieces that I want to touch on. One is just the idea, and this is maybe a good place for us to kind of start, is when people post things on Facebook into a group setting and immediately try to dictate how people respond to what they say. That's one thing. So I post this thing and then you say what you want to say about it, or you say what you want to say about it. And I say, no. You can't say that to me.
Right.
This is my post in a public forum.
Yeah.
It's one thing, I used to run ads for my own business on Facebook. I still do in my day job for another business, but I have the right to delete any comment I want on an ad. I'm paying
Right.
for it. The purpose of this is to promote something that's mine. I'm paying for it. So I have the right to. But when it comes to like me voluntarily saying something in a public forum and then being mad at everybody else for not liking what I said, that's a little bit much for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I guess just to like hone the context down, like we're talking strictly here about Nolensville specific social media. So I think we can limit that to what the 411 Nolensville community. Like, there's a few outliers there.
And the layer with that is just that the reason I think you say that partially is because these are people you might actually see in real life.
Yeah,
you're not just interacting with the people who love a band that you like or whatever.
100%.
It's something
right.
Okay.
I think in my mind, all of these groups were all set up and designed with the intent to kind of be like a public town square, so to speak,
like a bulletin board, like one of those like poles where you.
And it kind of there's a little bit of just in nature how people use them. There's kind of like a Twitter-ish aspect to them where it's like people sharing information and like there's comments and some review-ish type of posts and things like that. I think to your point though, Daniel, like what people don't seem to recognize. So like I consume Twitter. Mike, I know you're an avid Twitter consumer. Yeah. Like Twitter's the Wild West. Like I think like when you put stuff out there, like you just have to know that it's like this is the world that you're putting it into, and there are people that are cut from one cloth that are very I don't want to use the word positive, but like just don't necessarily engage in like debating and things like that. And then there are other people who are just more willing to like have an argument online.
Well,
and things like
Twitter's a different animal because you get to be anonymous, right? So Twitter, that's the old internet. That's how the internet started.
True.
That's kind of the internet I grew up on.
Yep.
Is that if there's the proper way to act, and there is
the internet way,
the funny way. Like, it was funny, right? So I grew up on Twitter, not like on Twitter, but like on the old internet with Reddit, Twitter, like Barstool Sports. Like that was like single mic with that. That's the way I consumed internet. What's funny to me on the 411 is that 411 and community is a little bit different. The 411 is like who can out best somebody else, right? So it's like I only engage in posts on. I have a very strict life code with the 411. I engage when I have an immediate one-liner that makes myself laugh out loud, which happens a lot. Like nobody makes me laugh harder than I do. Or if it's like a local political, quasi-political issue, like I will never engage a county politics, like a school district. Never engage on those. Never engage on national politics issue. But I'll like obviously it's on my feed and I read the majority of it, and the funniest things are like somebody will come up and it'll be the traditional small town post of like, hey guys, there's a cop on York and Williams, be careful. And then like 15 people like, you might have just killed somebody because he was driving drunk and he was reading your post. I'm like, chill out.
Yeah.
Like it's the equivalent of flashing your high beams at somebody ahead of you. Like we don't have to virtue signal anybody. It doesn't make you a better person because you want a drunk driver to get caught. Everyone in town wants to catch every drunk driver.
Yep.
And then it's like those posts are always the funniest to me, and it encapsulates the 411 so well. It's because there is like an entire section of people that want to be the most positive person in Nolensville and the most like loving person of Nolensville, and they do so on the backs of like people like you and me. Like like, well, this post is uncalled for. Can we stop talking about politics on the 411? It's like, why? Like I could like how is the post about these candles going to change my life?
Right.
As opposed to like me posting about a tax rate. Like my tax rate post is going to change your life if like it physically will cost you money.
Oh man.
This bread that just came out, like that's nice. I like those posts. Like I will most likely, I actually went out and got bread because I saw a post online. But it's like, how is that post like what the town wants instead of like an informative post like, hey, there's an election coming up, or there is this thing that happened politically you should be aware of. I do think that those posts do change and shape the way the town works, because it's, for as much as I hate to admit it, the 401 is like a lobby floor. Like there is a lot of policy that gets made in Nolensville based on the reactions on a 411.
Absolutely.
So like if we can all agree to that, like it has to, like you have to speak up when there's something of importance. You know, it can't always just be candles and bread.
I think the hilarious thing to me is, so people, it seems to happen every election cycle. People get up in arms about how many political posts that there are, quote unquote. Like, you know, it's just like, oh, I can't ever go on the 411 without reading somebody up in arms about something with politics in Nolensville. And I always just laugh because it's just like, just scroll on by.
Yeah.
Like it's literally as easy as just scrolling on your phone. If you don't want to see it, don't see it.
It's not even a square of like the whole screen. It's not even like the full
exactly
screen.
Like, but
half a screen.
To Mike's point, it's like the reason that it has such an effect in Nolensville and has such an effect on policy, and like the politicians pay attention to it, and they almost treat it like a polling system,
right?
Is because whether or not people are up in arms and don't want to read the political stuff on there, they do. Like they just don't want, people just don't want to admit that they care about that stuff. But at the end of the day, the most entertaining stuff and the things that get by far the most likes, the most engagement on the 4-in-1 have to do with town politics.
Of course.
Debates, things that are going on that, and yeah, like I think more people don't want to admit than want to admit how they love the trolls. And like it's entertaining. How can you not love to get involved in the debate and just like watch it with a bowl of popcorn?
Dude, Burke White.
And never have to actually comment or like on it, but you have somebody saying what's going on in your head already.
Burke White had a post that almost hit 1,000 comments. Like that, like, so I love Burke White's like sub comments because he ratios pretty much everyone that he comments on.
Right.
So there'll be a post about like something random. He'll comment a joke, and then he like completely demolishes the ratio between his likes that he gets on his sub comment versus the original post.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's what the internet's supposed to be like. The internet is not supposed to be a place where you go and you post a video of some kid stealing your Halloween candy ball.
Right.
Like that's what the Nolensville internet is.
Right.
That's not what the internet actually is. Like the people that understand the internet, meaning people in our age group, like we see a post and it's like somebody sets out a bowl of candy on Halloween and there's a Ring camera, and you know obviously we've seen the videos, right? Somebody, like some 14-year-old kid shows up, takes the ball and the candy and leaves. And it's like, can you imagine this happening? It's like, yeah, dude, like I was 14 years old. Like somebody left out a bowl of Snickers. I'm taking a ball too. Like that's what happened.
Yeah.
Like the majority of people that participate on the internet can relate to the kid.
Yep.
But like the Nolensville internet is more so like the world's ending. The world is ending. This is the millennial. This is mixed use development that's right on our borders. They're sending kids over here taking our Halloween candy. Like, no, like we've all done it.
This is mixed use manifest.
I think, yeah.
Apartments in
This
the
is
flesh.
this is all the Yankees from Chicago.
I think part of what creates that, and I don't think that this is specific to Nolensville, by the way. I think if you if you were to go around to like most towns and look at like their
HOAs,
their 401 or whatever, like it ends up becoming this. But I think what creates this is it's like the foundation for it is set in the fact that it's a Facebook group. And so it's not like a platform in and of itself, but the groups are set up with all these rules and conditions and things you have to follow. And so like personally, and I'm going to say it on this show, like I think that the 401 is like a very like communist regime in that it's like like it's moderated and it's heavily moderated, and the people who moderate it pick things based on how they feel about Nolensville.
Yeah.
Like there's not a fair moderating system to the 401 in my opinion. So can everyone sitting here today,
I would agree with that.
Have you all been moderated on the 401 before, or like?
Yeah.
I've had posts deleted. I've had messages with the admin before where I'm like, why'd my post get taken down? And there's no rhyme or reason.
I've seen
Mike,
posts.
you've had
I
posts deleted before.
Yeah.
I've seen posts that clearly violate a rule get left up, and
Correct.
it always seems to be the same people.
Correct.
Almost as if the moderator or moderators
is
friends with those people.
Yes.
Which
And that-
I actually, so like I do subscribe to the idea of like it's her page. She gets to run how she wants. I do subscribe to that, and I started my own. Like the Nolensville Insider is the place that I chose for there to be no rules on the Nolensville internet. There's only one. There's a few rules, but they're just very common. Like I've blocked like 3 or 4 people ever, and by blocking them, that gets rid of all their comments. It was a guy that was super racist. Like he legitimately said at one of the comments that finally broke the camel's back was like, he moved out of Nolensville, and he was referencing why he moved out of Nolensville is because there was like a person of color on the street, and his neighbors didn't like seek their docs on him. I'm like, oh, you're done. Like I don't want this crap on my page.
Yeah.
Like I deleted him. He like called a really good friend of mine the C word, and then belittled her at Mama Java's. So I was like, yeah, I'm not dealing with this. And then there was a lady from Brentwood that was just like beyond trolling, and like I knew that I was gonna gain favor with my wife if I blocked her, so I blocked her. And then her BFF, like that was a troll block. I was like, yeah, well, your friend got blocked, you get the block too.
I don't necessarily think we disagree that like people should be able to control their own pages, but I do think it's different. So like the Nolensville Insider is a page, right? Like you set that up as a persona, and it was really like a place to host like your blogs, and then the commentary would be, you know, directly related. You were trying to start conversations online directly related to what you were writing about. Nolensville 411 is a group, and so like inherently there's this kind of like open-ended town square feel that it was designed to have. When you call something the 411, it's supposed to be everything that encapsulates this town that it's associated with.
But you're speaking as a 35-year-old person that is
For
aware
sure.
of the internet, right?
For sure. But when, like, I mean, so for instance, like when you put restrictions on whether or not you can review a local restaurant
Right.
in a community, it's like, okay, so now I have to go to a different app to
This is
write
not
this
the 411.
review.
This is literally the
Like-
opposite of what 411 is.
Like I can go write this review on Yelp. It's going to have the same detrimental effect as
Probably
if I
more
write it
so
on the
because
411. Like,
Yelp shows up a lot more than
well,
411.
what you're saying is like they could just put the rules be, I run this page, I do what I want. Just make that the rules.
yeah.
And then,
That's
and then
my rule.
I mean, I'm saying, and then you don't have to explain it. or have
Correct.
it, but when you publish rules and then you randomly decide to enforce them,
Yes.
you make yourself actually responsible for whatever you choose to leave up.
Yeah.
That's like the internet. There was the whole open like internet thing that happened where all these like YouTube and stuff, they didn't want to be responsible for stuff they failed to moderate appropriately.
Right.
And there actually was a law passed where it said, all right, fine. Like as long as you're doing your best, like you can't make someone responsible if they missed something. But in a smaller like microcosm, that's what's happening on the 411.
Yeah.
If you publish all these rules and then selectively enforce them, you are actually inherently endorsing everything you leave up.
Correct. Yeah. I think you touched on a really good point, which is like the lack of clarity on enforcement.
Sure.
And so like if you're going to publish a list of rules, but then just arbitrarily enforce them as you see fit, that's where the communist comment comes from. Is it's like, okay, well, like it kind of feels like you're just picking winners and losers instead of like this being like a free community economy, so to speak, where we can all socially exist and share our opinions, good or bad, like strong or soft, and at any level about any topic. So, I mean, for instance, like I had a post deleted simply because the admin just didn't want polls being posted anymore, and she can't limit your ability to still post a poll because it's a Facebook feature. So she just told me I don't want polls anymore, and I'll delete every single one. But the poll was like a legitimate poll, like.
No,
There was nothing like that negative about it.
How many
It was-
apartments do you want to know?
She just didn't like that most of the people were voting on the poll like in favor of something that she wasn't supportive of.
Right. Well, it's 411 is the land of virtue signaling, like you already said, and pearl clutching. That's the two things that happen.
That's a good one. Yeah.
But I will say that like both of those things, like metaphorically speaking in my mind, what that is like when you get ready to write something on that, specifically on 411, it's almost like the person writing it has like a big like wheelbarrow full of bricks. And it's like, you have a choice here. Like you can build something up here with what you're going to say. And every single time the virtue signalers and the pearl clutchers post something, what they decide to do is say, look, I'm going to build this staircase for me to get up a little higher. And it's a good thing because, look, it's going to inspire everybody else to build their own staircase and they can all go higher. But what they don't acknowledge is that you actually could do something a little bit less attractive and build a staircase that's a little bit wider and lets everybody step up a little bit more and elevates the whole conversation. That actually is another choice you can make with those same bricks. 100%. What you decided to do was, I'm going to make this really narrow one just for me that gets me a really high, and I'm going to inspire everybody that they can do the same for themselves, as opposed to just contributing and saying, I'm not going to have as much of an impact because people might think of this being as being unsavory.
Right.
But I'm going to make a wider, smaller, shorter staircase that everybody can. We can keep moving the conversation along a little bit at the detriment of everyone's personal opinion of me a little bit. And that's, I think, at least in some places, the three of us are not afraid of doing that. Mm-hmm. Being a little bit of like the pearl clutchers would call us bullies, but it's like, come on, like you're grow up. Like that's all it is.
I have a question for you guys though. So just to prove like the concept here, like what are some of the most memorable 411 posts? Like the ones that like you go back and you're like, yeah, this is a good one. Like this was 2 days of awesome group text.
I might have to ponder on it for a minute.
I mean, I would just go back to the Nolies and just look at the
Nolies were fun. Some of the Nolies got actually turned down, which is even funner. Like the backside of that was even funner. I handed out some Nolies that got rejected.
Oh, really? They didn't want to have the award?
I don't want this. This is too negative. This award is too negative. Mine, probably, again, Burke White, that noise ordinance, it was basically like 1,000 comments talking crap about the government. Like the government's full of idiots. They're trying to regulate noise, and they put in phonographs into this ordinance. Remember Signgate? Like hashtag never forget Signgate.
Signgate.
Like they like somebody. I think it was back when Jimmy told the public works director to go pick the signs for new builds out in the ground, and he like got somebody that was like a part timer on the weekend, picked out all the Nolensville graduation signs out of the ground.
Yep,
like, that's funny. That's not positive. Like we're dogging on the government for like a solid weekend.
I have a self-deprecating one that was pretty good recently.
Oh, yeah.
So I full disclosure, I had mowed my lawn in a little bit and was getting in my car to drive to work one morning and was like, oh, like this. I mean, this is personally what I think the 411 is great for. It's just like you need something in town. You can get a bunch of it's quicker than Google. You can get a bunch of recommendations super quick.
Well, it's not quicker than Google. It's a better representation of the market than Google.
It requires zero effort
for
you to get results. Like you just type a question in, and then people will give you all the best reviewed stuff. So anyway, I get in my car, quickly type into 411 what I think I type is there anybody mowing out in Nolensville today? I need my lawn cut. And drive 30 minutes into the city, get to my office, and look down at my phone, and I have a text from, lo and behold, Mike, just saying, like, check your post, dude. It's blowing up. Didn't know that my autocorrect had gone off, and I actually typed, is there anybody moaning out in Nolensville today? And
200 comments later.
200 comments. Oh my gosh.
Got his lawn mowed.
And I wrote a quick edit, like definitely not editing this because the comments are too funny. Was just amazing. That is like, in my book, that is like what Nolensville 411 should be though.
Yeah.
Is like just people posting for things, leave it up even if it's like hilariously like inappropriate, and let the comments ride like however it goes. I think I guess my favorite post ever was during BN, like the Jason Patrick texts.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we'll get
Barry.
Not, oh yeah. I went a different way on that one. Mine was the Jason Patrick impact fee.
Yeah.
post. That was awesome.
Oh, that was really great too. I think a lot of the posts during Better Nolensville were pretty clutch.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when I can mute those out. Maybe.
Great.
We'll see. If I remember.
Just ruin a whole half an hour of podcasting.
No, I remember getting like, I literally, like, we were doing Better Nolensville stuff, and I'm like commenting on things, whatever, and then like getting somebody who just like had a bone to pick with me, and like could not understand that like I wasn't actually living on Facebook. Like I do like type something and like then go do something else for a while,
Right?
And it was like someone being like, "Oh, you're too scared. You're too scared to reply now." It's like,
I remember that.
It's like
you got beat up, dude.
I literally went to mow my lawn. Like I went outside and mowed the lawn. And I'm
Did you mow or moan it?
I mowed my lawn. But it's like people. It's just a weird world. But like, the funny thing is, your opinion about whether or not somebody's a bully or negative or mean or whatever it is always depends on whether or not you agree with them. It has nothing to do with actually what they're saying. Mm-hmm. You won't say someone's being a bully if you agree with them. It's a weird thing. That's the pearl clutching. It's, oh my gosh, look at how, I can't stand any of it. I don't want to hear about I take this back. I was going to say, I don't want to hear about the great food you had at such and such restaurant. I actually do want to hear that. Cause like I've gone and like, that's great. I'll like it and I'll go do it. But like, I also want to hear if you had a terrible experience, somewhere.
Well, yeah, I was gonna ask that. Like,
I'm kind of torn on that.
We get those the comments come up all the time of like, why wouldn't you just approach the business personally if this happened? Like, how do you guys feel about that?
I'm torn on that because like I do believe in the ability to speak your mind when you were wronged. It's too personal for me because I know a lot of business owners here. Like, you were a business owner. If somebody dogged on Mill Creek Brewery, like screwing them over, I would have been like, screw you, dude. Get off the internet. Like, I know the guy. Like, I know the guy that runs Birdie's, me and Loretta's. Like, if somebody dogged on him, I'm like, no, like, the guy's great. He literally delivered a free meal to my house when my kid was born. Mm-hmm. Like no, like he might have missed an order, right? He, like, out of the 300 orders that week, he screwed one up. Like, he's still, that's still Hall of Fame numbers in my book, right? So, like, I'm torn on that. It's one of those things where I just don't have a right answer. Like, I want to know, like, so there's a mechanic in town that, like, literally screwed me over. Like, to the point where, like, I needed to put a brand new engine in my car. Like, I would have loved to know that ahead of time. Like, like, warning, this mechanic's not good in this job. Don't go there. But at the same time, like, I don't want somebody that I do care for that does do a good job majority of the time getting hit because they missed 1 out of 1,000.
Right.
Well, I will say, like, I do marketing for a company that has over 100 franchise locations. And so we get negative reviews locally all the time. The thing about it is the way around that, and the reason why I say I'm fine, I want to hear about the negative experience, is because you know how you fix that as a business owner? You reply to it. Because you're either a shady business owner and you don't actually think you don't want people to know you did it and you are terrible and everything, or you made an honest mistake and you can admit to it and that actually looks good on you too. There's not a situation where you reply as a business owner where it's a bad thing.
Yeah, I actually agree with this, and this is why I think like 4-in-1 in places should allow it, is because if somebody's that pissed off and all they do is go to the store, that has zero social impact or marketing play for the store. If they go on 4-in-1 though, and they post a bad review, and the store owner or the business owner actually comes and responds directly to it, now you have the whole town seeing that, hey, like, okay, me and Loretta's owner is a great guy, is very active on the 4-in-1. If somebody posted a bad review, guess what? He's probably going to come and comment and try and make it right. And that has far more social cred and does more for the business than just, hey, well, come in here and let's like hide this and pretend it never happened and we'll make it right for you.
All right, we're back real quick from a break. So I just wanted to mention one thing that I've never said publicly is, we talked about replying to reviews and those kind of things and how that is actually better. I've had, no joke, it hasn't happened since they moved to the new location, but when I used to go to Martin's, more times than not, by a large majority, they get something wrong in my order, my to-go order. And
I got a story.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So but I still go there, right? I didn't stop going there because of that. Because every time I said, "Hey, you messed this up," they fix it. So like the experience is the same as like posting something online. Like if I had like just left and gone home and been like, "Oh, these guys are terrible. They were terrible at running their business." I guarantee you, if they had seen that online, they would have done the same thing they did in person, which is, "Oh man, like we missed it. Sorry about that. Like we'll fix it for you. Or if we can't fix it right now, we'll fix it for you next time. We'll make it right." And so it's never a bad thing. But if you don't allow people to post those things, you actually don't allow the businesses to show everybody, because no one's like the idea of like a business being perfect but also operating perfectly in secret is just like insane to me.
Yeah.
So like, why don't you just let those negative things fly, and then let the businesses that are upright and deserve business to stand up and show how they fix those things. I know you've got something to say about that, Mike, but I've also got another thing that came up this week on social media. So I'll bring that up after you tell me.
No, it was just so when I bought my new home, we had a housewarming, and my realtor hooked us up with like a housewarming catering, and then we chose Martin's. They didn't screw anything up. I screwed up. I left the lid open on the pulled pork and it spilled. My car to this day smells like pulled pork. It's so bad. It is so
I mean,
bad.
I could go either way on that. Like that's either a blessing or a curse.
It's really nice for like a day or two.
And then you get sick of it.
Right.
No, and then it spoils.
I've had a buddy who delivered pizzas in college, and his car never didn't smell like pizza until he got rid of it, and it was not a good smell. You know,
But at least it's fresh pizzas every day.
So before you jump in, because I want to touch on one thing that you were kind of hinting at.
Sure.
And I probably have the harshest angle out of the three of this on this, but I don't know. Like,
did you ever get a bad review on the 401?
Yeah, no, for sure. And like we just addressed it, and like, hey, like I don't even remember what it was. I probably didn't address it. Your wife Liz probably is the one who addressed it, but like, I mean, our stance was always like, okay, if somebody complains online, like we'll comment and be like, come back, we'll make it right.
Yeah.
Like if we screwed up and like, overcharged you, cool, come back, let's figure it out. Like we'll probably give you a free t-shirt or
you guys held on to
free
my
beer.
You guys held on to my Amex for like 3 weeks one time.
Oh, well.
I got it back though.
You should have written us up on the 411.
Right,
we would have reacted a lot quicker.
In one day, you would have got it back.
No, but I'm curious to see where you guys land on this, because part of this is maybe my politics a little bit and just like being more right leaning, like free market, like things should just like operate and we should just let whatever happens happen. But personally, and I'm not going to name names in saying this, but like I think that there are a lot of really terrible businesses in Nolensville, both like concepts and also poorly operated. And because Nolensville is the size it is, and we have this kind of economic abnormality in that there isn't a whole lot of competition, bad businesses survive because they don't actually have to ever raise their game. And so I think this kind of is where, in my opinion, this is where like the don't post negative reviews on the 401 comes from, is like people are so worried that like our small local businesses are going to close. Like if they get one bad review, it's just going to be crippling. And my personal answer is, I understand there's the caveat of like any business has problems. There are always issues, things go wrong. You can't control for everything. But the way that you avoid negative reviews is you run your business really well, or you create a really like great product or a great service that people really want, and it overshadows the bad reviews. And I personally just don't think that Nolensville's economy has that right now, because we have a lot of businesses that do a great job, and then we have a lot of them that just survive because you don't have another option. But like you're going to go shop at that one business because where else are you going to go get?
So I do agree with that. I do agree that there's businesses around that are there because there's just no competition, or to like kind of what you said. there is a part of me that feels really, really bad for businesses because of the market that we're in. Like they're paying like $30 to $40 a square foot because they're in Nolensville.
I don't see, and I don't feel bad for them because look, if you and I can say this because I've lived on the mountain and the valley of the entrepreneurial life.
Yeah.
Here in Nolensville too, and like if you take the risk. I'm not saying that you should be penalized ever for taking the risk, but if you take the risk and it just doesn't work out, like, I mean, that's what you signed up for. That's not anybody's problem or fault. Like if you studied Nolensville and said, I think my business is going to do great here and it tanks, well, that's on you. That's on you for like not realizing that like maybe your product or service wasn't a match with the market or whatever. But I mean, I just think that sometimes people and bring it back to like 411 and stuff. Like I think people online sometimes just worry far too much about like crippling our economy or like we're going to close a local business if there's a bad review that gets out there or whatever. Like the reality is if that business were to close, we might actually get something better. And so like I'm a hard believer in like the free market and how it operates. And so like if some businesses were to close because they really do have bad service and they just never do anything about it, I'm looking at you, Subway. Like what would be the problem with that? Who cares if our Subway closed? We'd get another one. Maybe we'd get a Jimmy John's.
No,
wouldn't that be awesome?
We would get another Subway.
Or like and it's not them specifically, but it's like who cares if X and X business were to close? We would then have an open spot where another business could come in and maybe would be a better fit and would be, you know, something that everybody would enjoy a lot more.
The only thing that I would add to that would be that there is a pretty significant part of me that kind of is disappointed with how everyone that's kind of promoting these businesses and these business owners are such noodles. Like, and I'll clarify.
Did you say noodles?
They're just it's very like they're noodles. So like
so many great ideas for episode names.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Like let's say I'm running
send noodles.
Let's say I'm running anything. Like pick something. Like I'm terrified to pick something because people are gonna tire to me talking crap about whatever I list, be it coffee, subs, pizza, anything.
I'd want the context to be that you own a knick-knack store.
Yes,
like local knickknacks
or coffee. Coffee's fine with me.
Right. So like let's say I own a coffee shop, and then let me go on and make sure that everybody understands that I'm not talking about Mama's Java or I'm not talking about Just Love. I'm not talking about any of the current coffee shops. I'm doing this as an example.
I will.
Like me, Mike Lushek, the Nolensville Insider, I would be promoting, I would be lobbying every single chance I get for mixed use. Get me more people here. Like every soul that lives here, that drives through here, is a potential customer.
Yep.
And we have business owners that are like, I can't get political. And we've seen that throughout Old Boma. When you were one of them, like you weren't a noodle, but you were saying I can't get involved because there's going to be repercussions to my business. And there's still that sentiment where business owners know what they need. They need more people. They need more foot traffic. They need just better connection throughout neighborhoods and stuff like that to drive that foot traffic.
You're 100% right, Mike. So like the best coffee shop in town is Cornell Brothers. We can argue about this another day.
No, I mean that's pretty.
I wouldn't argue with you.
I think it is the best coffee shop in town, and it literally exists inside like 3 other shops. It's like
that spot is awesome. By
is
the
it
way.
the juice place?
That's my favorite. That's my favorite business, and it's nothing to do with the 3 of them except Cornell is pretty great.
But my point is like if we had a village. Cornell could survive on its own.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
It's just, it has to, that kind of concept with like higher priced coffee and everything like that, like it has to exist in a space where you have walkability and lots of people around it.
And not a 3,000 to 5,000 square foot building. They need 1,000 square feet.
But like the reason it works where it is because it gets the foot traffic of Oh My Chives and the juice place. And so there's kind of a built-in mixed use within Oh My Chives.
I've never met the person that owns Oh My Chives. I have absolutely zero connection to him. That's the smartest business owner in all Nolensville by far. This is somebody that secured a strip mall bay and the only mixed use development we have, and then they went too much space for me. Let me subsidize it with 2 other businesses that completely complement what I'm doing.
I will say, great entrepreneur from the stance of she made a very early pivot.
Yeah,
which is like the key any entrepreneur should ever make.
I know her, and she's young, and she will do whatever it takes to.
But I mean, she went in with the dream of, I want to open Oh My Chives. It's going to be the whole space. It's going to be this concept, and then very quickly realized, you know what, like, maybe I'm too soon. Nolensville's not ready for this. I don't know what the reasons were. Obviously, the numbers didn't work out, and so how can I still make this work? Because I'm on the hook for it all. Brilliant move.
The idea that I can go in there and get something that's organic and fresh, get a cup of coffee and a smoothie for my kids, and it's 3 different businesses.
Oh, and every time I go in there, it is just like popping.
Yeah.
Like it is so
That's what a village is. That's what
I know.
You go in there and then you go sit outside and you visited 3 different businesses without even knowing it. You're sitting outside and there's traffic going by you. You're enjoying good. That's what a village is.
Yep.
So I know you brought this up thinking you were kind of like preventing me from moving on to what I want to talk about. But this is actually exactly what I was trying to bring up anyway.
Good segue.
Which is Derek Adams posted a few days ago on the 411 about how it was the whatever that is, the Hill Center, whatever it's called, the one. It was empty on Black Friday.
Oh, was that the Rob Varell share?
Yeah, and it was it was and it was like
parking regs.
Yeah, and it was like chairman of the PC is like, for full transparency, what day of the week was it? How many businesses chose to be home with their families instead? It's like, how many of the things did you just list that are not directly reflective of how well you run your business as a business owner?
Right.
Like, great. All of those things could be true and make you win the argument, but all of those things point to someone who doesn't run. Okay, great. You were closed on the busiest shopping day of the year.
So were the food places closed in Cool Springs on Friday?
Exactly.
Right.
It's just like, and the whole thing about, like, this is back around to, I don't want to rehash a thing we already kind of dealt with, but like the name of our podcast versus a local business, like you had 8 or 10 years supposedly to develop your brand in this local marketplace, and now all of a sudden you think a little upstart podcast is a threat to you. Does that say more about us or about what you've done in this business?
Right. I'm
not trying to call them out specifically, but like in general, like every single thing people complain about businesses, like large businesses. Coffee is a great example. What do people complain about Starbucks? The number one thing is that the taste of the coffee is burnt. Why do they do that? It's because they're a large business, and the only way you can get consistency in coffee is by roasting it to a point where you can't tell a difference between different batches of beans.
Right.
Because that's how you get the consistent product.
Yep.
You need that for a large scale business. That is by nature something that happens with a large business. So as a small business, it should be no problem for you to actually beat them at the things that people complain about a large business. So any business here in Nolensville that's not doing well should be doing better than a large business that does the same thing that they do.
100%.
And if you're not doing that, it's not somebody else's fault. It is not some virtue signaler's job to say, well, maybe we should all just shop local. It's like, no, I'm going to shop local if they're better than the big business.
Yeah.
And if they're not, it's not my civic duty to go buy some crappy product from somebody who's not doing a good job.
Yep.
I went to Mill Creek because I liked the beer better than I liked the beer I got anywhere else.
Yep.
I go to Cornell Brothers and I go to Itty Bitty Donuts because their coffee is better, in my opinion, than the other 2 coffee shops in town. And if you like the other 2 coffee shops, great. But like, if you don't, like, it's not your job. It's not my civic duty to go support Mama's Java because I don't think that coffee should be brewed with whiskey flavor in the beans.
Hey,
that's just
me.
Good.
Good.
Yeah, but like, it's not like I went one day. There was when they were the only coffee shop in town. I actually went to Sonic first on, I think it was Thanksgiving morning. I ran out of beans at my house. Or something like that. It was Black Friday years ago. I went to Sonic first and they were closed on that morning.
Yep.
And I went to Mama's Java and I went to the drive-thru and they asked me, well, what kind of black coffee I wanted black coffee. And I was like, what do you mean? And they said, well, do you want the chocolate flavored black coffee, the whiskey? And I was like, I literally said, I got to go. And I didn't, I left.
I just wanted coffee.
Yeah. And but other people like that, but it's
Yeah.
not
Right.
my job to go buy it from them if
Right.
I hate it. It's not my job to go to buy a candle if I don't want a candle.
Yep.
It's not my job to go buy a Nolensville souvenir if I don't want a Nolensville souvenir from
Right.
the 8 places that sell Nolensville souvenirs. Run your business better. No
No,
one made you run a business.
I
That's what you're
100%
saying.
agree with
Which,
you.
by the way, I'm betraying all of my liberal ideology by saying all of this. But like, I do also believe as an entrepreneur that like it's your
Look at
job.
you, capitalist.
Well,
I know,
So,
right?
okay.
What's wrong with me? I'm so
you
conflicted.
little capitalist.
I don't know
you.
what to think.
You and I both work in marketing, and like I think the thing that frustrates me the most about the majority of Nolensville businesses is one, the lack of marketing. Like we have we're inundated with businesses that have like the Field of Dreams model, which is like
Right.
if you build it, they will come. And frankly, they get away with it in Nolensville. That's the point I was making before, because it's pretty much if you open, like you're bound to be somewhat successful in Nolensville for the most part.
That's what I
But
think.
so like we're both friends with Wade, who owns me and Loretta's,
Which-
formerly Birdie's, and also another brilliant entrepreneur. Like, you know,
Good marketer.
hey, yes, great marketer.
How often is he on the 401 or anywhere promoting himself
Exactly.
in a
Every
fun
day.
way that people
Every
like?
Right,
every
right.
day.
But I mean, even doing that at Birdie's, like he still read the writing on the wall and was like, "Look, there's no lunch crowd. So if I'm not open for dinner and I'm only doing breakfast and lunch, like, oh crap, like nobody stays in Nolensville during the day or orders lunch, or if they do, they're like contractors
Or
in Sonic, you know."
COVID's over.
Maybe
Everybody
Martin's.
went back downtown.
Right. So like brilliant move of his to like switch to like I'm gonna just do a really heavy like dinner thing and like change up the menu and the concept and stuff like that. But even so, he's still marketing the crap out of it. He's still like getting the name out there. And
he even
like,
he partnered with Nate, the bearded baker.
right.
Yeah.
That was perfect. I mean,
But
that-
like to his credit, like he also like name another business in Nolensville outside of the brewery that won like a Wilco award for anything.
Yeah.
Like Birdie's won best new restaurant, right? Because like he did a great job of getting the name out there. It doesn't mean that like people don't know the names of all the other local businesses. You do, but like okay, like we all knew that there was we knew that at some point that there was a store called Small Town Charm. Guess what? I've never freaking been in the place though. Like, you know, and I bet you a lot of people in Nolensville could say the same thing about most of the local businesses here.
You've never seen a more aggressive socialist than a conservative who's trying to virtue signal on the 411 about small business.
Yeah. 100%. Great point.
That's what it is. It's we all you were a free market capitalist, bleeding red conservative until it means you get a chance to score some social points with everybody online about how we all need to support small business.
Yep.
no, I mean, the sentiment is good. The virtual signaling is I can do it out. So like you've made a great point. It's like I will support local. I would love nothing more to do all my business within Nolensville city limits.
Me too,
Like
right.
I want to buy my groceries here. I want to spend every dollar that I spend. I want to spend inside of Nolensville. Like I'll forego the convenience of Amazon.
Yep.
I'll forego like the variety of product like Walmart, and then I will shop local. I will go to Ace Hardware. I will go to get coffee locally. Like, just give me the options. Give me the really good options and perform that service at the very least as well as people outside of town limit.
But I think the point that we're all driving at the end of the day is there's this mentality, and it's like a fear-mongering tactic that happens online, which is that like if you trash a business for doing a bad job, or that if a business just like is not like succeeding, that somehow like local citizens' fault. Like we didn't shop local enough, or like they got a bad review and that's really what took them down. And so like the thought process there is that like, well, if the business goes out of business, like we're not going to have another business then.
Yeah.
Like
or it's a failure of our citizenry.
Yeah, but like the truth is, again, if a business goes under in Nolensville, like commercial real estate is so hard to find here because it just doesn't exist.
and it's so
Everything's
expensive
filled
as well.
and it's so
Yeah.
expensive. But if a business goes out of business here, there's going to be another one that is already lined up ready to go. Like
Unless Tommy Duggar's selling the land. Sorry.
Pony Express, right? Like
Pony Express is great. That's one of my favorite businesses in town.
And what was the business that was there before?
No clue.
Yeah, exactly.
I have no clue.
Like it wasn't worth writing home about,
Dude,
and so it closed. And guess what happened in the free market? Another business came in and has done a good job promoting themselves and is providing great service, and so people are telling their friends, and there's this organic growth happening, and that business will be successful because that's how it works.
Dude, I don't mind plugging great businesses. Pony Express. So I've recently started my own business, right? A real estate company. Like I had to depend on getting a lot of like printed products, like business cards, flyers, all that. Like all I have to do is call them, send them a PDF. It's ready within an hour. And not only that, they have like a coffee shop bakery thing right there, like inside of that place.
Yeah.
They're not only are they super, super capable of like meeting all my needs, but they're also like super helpful with like helping me figure out what my needs actually are. They like, I was doing an open house a couple of weeks ago, and I like my wife like emailed them a flyer, and they're like, well, if it's for an open house, you probably like you want to do a heavier stock paper, like. Yeah, like I didn't even think of that. I was just gonna
made the recommendation,
like, right? And one like
also smart business owner because that costs more. So.
Right? Yeah, it was like 7 times more.
I went there. The first time I ever went there. I had to do some stuff for my work, and we had a FedEx account, and she had just opened. It's like she didn't even know exactly how to do it all, and she was like, "Hey, if you want to log in, like here's a computer. Jump behind the counter here, and log in." And I did, and like printed out the labels I needed to get some stuff because I was, it wasn't any different for me from doing it with her versus somebody else.
Yep.
But it was local, so I did it. And then while I was there and getting the things printed out, she's like, "Hey, can I make you coffee?" Because it was the first time. She was like, "I'm going to make you something this time," and it was really good. And I'm
that coffee is pretty good.
Yeah,
they make chai there too, and
right. And so I was like, if nothing else, like from like the marketing perspective, I respect the hustle.
Yeah.
In a good way. It's like you made me as a customer. Number one, find a way to make it where your business could fulfill my needs, even if you didn't know how to do it. You made it where I was like, "Hey, here's my computer. You just do it.
Do your thing."
Yeah. and then while I was working, she's like, "I'm going to make you a coffee. What do you want?" And she gave me something. And so yeah, I have no problem with local business when it's somebody like that, or somebody like Wade. That's
Pony Express is a really good. That's my sleeping horse. Like they're probably the best rent business in town, and that's not a knock on a good rent business in town. That's Pony Express is a very like that lady. I think she brought the first ever Amazon Dropbox to Nolensville. Like they have the Amazon like. That's what you do. Like you're a place that prints and mails things. Like why wouldn't you have an Amazon Dropbox thing like that? Like I don't have to be forced or not forced, but reminded to shop locally. Like tomorrow or yesterday was Shop Small Saturday. Mm-hmm. Like I don't have to be reminded to go to Pony Express. I'm going to Pony Express every time I have a Pony Express need. Yeah. Right.
So, and I think, bring this full circle onto like the social discussion and things like that. Like, I think that people freak out online because they're afraid that like our local economy is somehow going to collapse if we don't shop local. And so people, that's where the virtue signaling and like the call outs against negative reviews and stuff come from.
I think that's cheap like there's an aspect to that with cheap likes too.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Hey guys, let's all hug and love each other and shower me with my 31 love reactions.
Yeah.
Like I think there is an aspect to that too. I can't believe you haven't plugged in your favorite candle shop yet.
Like it's because we don't have a candle handy.
Yeah, we had a candle when we filmed.
Studio B had the candle.
Yeah. That was Studio C. Studio B was.
I love a good $50 candle. Like it's that's my only knock against Nella Moon is like they're just really expensive. So
that's what I said.
Really hoping we get like a promo out of this where we get like
I told you like,
one candle a month for a shout out or something.
Give us a promo code we can share with everybody.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
And then everyone gets a discount. We get a discount, but they get a discount too.
Yeah. Nella Moon, NellaMoon.com / Chris.
Yeah.
I thought promo codes was just I'm getting rained with dollar bills.
Maybe. No? I do think since we're on the topic of like local economy and stuff, like we don't have in our economy a variety of shops right? Like we have a lot of, if you look at it and kind of boil it down, we have a lot of the same things.
We have 4 coffee shops.
I know.
That's
In
awesome.
a town. If you count Pony Express,
I know.
5.
I know.
5,
But
yeah.
see, like there's this thought process that I think that comes out on 411 and stuff that's like, oh, like, you know, like we have to support all the businesses or they're going to go under. And if they go, like if one goes under, we're never going to get something. Like that's just not how it works. Like we have 4 coffee shops. They're competing
Right.
with each other and they're all doing fine.
You gotta,
Like-
you gotta up your caffeine intake, dude.
Yeah.
4 coffees a day.
I mean, how many knickknack shops do we have? Way too many. How many antique stores do we have? Way too many. So, like, I do think that there's an opportunity for more variety to come into Nolensville, and I think people are definitely like open to that. But
Well,
you know, time
yeah.
will tell.
But kind of like to pull it back to what I was kind of bringing up with the whole, for transparency, tell me about this or that. Number 1, you're in the planning commission. Number 2, you're in the planning commission that approved that strip mall development
Yeah.
full of businesses that made maybe
So,
poor
hey,
decisions.
you want to? So we have 32 seconds. You want to hear? You want to hear a funny
We're
story?
gonna have to come back anyway. So give me your story now.
So
or
I'm on the BZA
Yeah.
primarily because the BZA approved a smoke shop or no pawn store across the street from town hall. So I was like, when I found that out, I emailed Joe Miller. I'm like, hey, there's an opening on the BZA. Please let me have it. I will never allow a pawn store or a pawn shop across the town hall. He's like, deal.
Nice. All right, we're back. So I think kind of what we're getting at is like we don't owe anybody anything, and this is like something that I, when we did the Better Nolensville thing, I posted. I think it might have been one of maybe our first like official BOMA response letter or open letter that we posted. I talked about the difference between like truth and honesty and what those things mean, and like how you can be honest and like state things that are like sure they're objectively true, but they're not like the actual like full truth of like what something really is. And I think that's a lot of like what you see with this virtue signaling or pearl clutching, all of that stuff, which is like, sure, like, yes, we should support small business. Yes, we should be nice, but like what that like
Seats generally should be cheap.
yeah, I like cheap seats. I think that I don't like when has anyone ever been proud? When has anyone with a good point ever been like, I paid a lot of money for these seats, so listen to me.
When you're Jay-Z.
Okay. Yeah. Spike Lee.
yeah.
He seems to know what he's talking about. But there's a difference, you know, and sure we should support small business, or sure we should be nice. But at the end of the day, what's nicer? Like telling someone you're doing great. I wish 15,000 people decided randomly to buy your product that you did a terrible job promoting or didn't actually think all the way through what this was and how this would serve a marketplace. Or is it nicer to say, hey, you're missing the mark. Like the market is telling you this is not working, or the town has developed a bunch of strip malls that you can't afford and this business won't survive in this strip mall. So don't run this business this way, or don't run a business at all until there's a different option available where there's a walkable residential dense area that can support this, whatever that is. Like that's actually a nicer thing to say to someone, because one way, the nice thing to say, the honest thing is, I wish we all supported small business. Keep doing what you're doing. Also, I know it costs you $5,000 a month to rent this spot, so just keep burning that money.
Yeah.
You know, or is it, this is not working for you, do something different, or don't.
Yep.
And quit. But stop wasting your money, because it's not up to 15 or 16,000 people to keep supporting you, because supporting small business is the right thing to do. And maybe this is not a good choice for you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think the concept of attaching supporting small business or supporting local business to whether all local businesses succeed is just ludicrous. Like that's just not. I support local business. I'm a champion of local business. I love local business. I opened a local business. Like I have a little more clout than some people that come to the argument. Like, but at the end of the day, I don't think every local business should succeed.
Yep.
Because that's just not that. I just don't believe in that kind of economy. And I think some local businesses, frankly, deserve to go out of business because they either don't have a great product, they don't have a good service, or and they're being propped up by this like false economy, which is that they just have zero competition, and so they can continue to suck for all eternity. And because we don't have a Starbucks down the road that would easily put them. Well, we actually do, so that's a bad argument.
Yeah,
but
well,
Starbucks has
we really will,
the
too.
way to Starbucks is pretty hinderful.
yeah, but I mean does this mean that I like want a bunch of chains to come into like our strip malls and like take over for a local mom and pop shop? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But like, I think this is a prime example. I went last night. My family wanted to order pizza, Italian, and we have 4 chains that you can order pizza from. I was like, hey, family in from out of town. They know good pizza because they live in like Indiana outside Chicago, and like it's just, I mean, they have like
Shout out good pizza.
great pizza. Yeah, I mean, they have like great Italian family run places that have been there for 50, 60 years.
Dude, you
And so they were like, what's your local place? And I frankly, I'm just glad that we can actually say we have a local
Right.
place
Amigos,
that's run
right.
by a family
right.
and is actually legit. And so I was like, well, we have to get Amico's. And yeah, it's more expensive. It takes longer. It's all the things, but like they loved it. Like they were like, this is really good pizza. And the kids loved the pasta and the calamari and all that kind of stuff. But I went in there last night and it was popping. Like they had like 20 people behind the counter just slinging pizzas everywhere. It's like, and tons of to-go boxes. So like what is different about a place like that is great product. It's not just longevity. It's not that they've just been here like forever and like had like a local following that's been built up. That following was built up because people actually enjoy their food and they
Right.
do a good job and they provide good service and
So
they're
I'm-
honest people.
I'm from Chicago. It shames me to say Amico's is great. That's good pizza. Like, it is great.
Well, that's because you're used to eating lasagna that
No, it's
is
pizza.
masked
It's-
as
Well,
pizza.
But here's
It's
the
a
thing, though.
casserole. It's a casserole.
Casserole.
Everything you just the things you said, sure, it takes longer. It's this, it's that, it's more expensive. Those are all the things. No one complains about Pizza Hut or Papa John's and says it's too fast
Yeah.
or it's too cheap. The things they complain about are the things that Amico's has chosen to do better.
Yes.
right. Better
And-
product.
Exactly. And so it's people will put up with a lot if you can do things better than the big chain. So here's a marketing idea, product idea for every local business in Nolensville. Figure out whatever vertical you're in, your competitors that are big, and figure out what the most common complaints are about those businesses and just do better at those things than those people do. That's
Yeah.
all it is. You don't have to do better at everything. You don't have to be better at all of it. You can be more expensive or whatever it is.
Right.
Just that's what I mean. Nella Moon, maybe it's because they smell better than everybody else. And that's
They
why
have the
can
best
charge.
They have the best candle on like a 50-mile radius.
Right. And so
Right.
that's all you have to do. But if you're just going to be one of 8 of the same knickknack shop or antiques, if your antiques aren't any better than anybody else's or rare
Or older,
or
or
whatever
older.
it is, yeah, then like
Or
you're
more
not
antique.
you're not beating anybody. That's all it takes. But yeah, so I love, again, Amico's is a great example of finding, you can take advantage of the local business
Yep.
persona.
Dude, so I'm so excited. I was gonna touch it, but I don't want you to mute me. I'm so excited for Bona Beef and Rainbow Cone are coming to Nolensville. Dude, I'm so excited because
What are these, by the way? I have no context.
I'm actually very curious about this.
So
What they
Rainbow
actually
Cone,
are.
Rainbow Cone is like a South Chicago thing. They started in like the southern part of Chicago.
And it's ice cream?
It's slices of ice cream. So they don't scoop it; they slice it, and it's like they have like some very
On a cone?
Yeah, what do they do?
They
with
put it
this?
on the cone, yeah.
Is it a rainbow colored cone?
Yeah, so it's like instead of like, you know how you do a
Rainbow
scoop,
cone.
you can do like 2 or 3 scoops until it gets like unsafe. They
But-
can do like 5 because they slice.
So
it.
like brownie
So it's-
slice?
Is
or
it like flat
peep-
slices
like-
that like a hamburger stacked on top of each other that way?
Right.
Okay.
So it's
that's
like
cool.
it's on par with Kilwins. The ice cream is on par with Kilwins, and then their niche of like slicing.
I don't know what Kilwins is. So
Kilwins is that
Downtown
place
Franklin.
in Franklin that if you go to get a milkshake, it costs you $12.
I've never been.
Or like a cone costs you like $24. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
but it's like handcrafted ice cream. It's ice cream that's very good.
Yeah.
And it's not Baskin Robbins. Like it's not, it's specialty. They're not too expensive though. They're pretty competitive.
So we're getting that, and I
They're pretty
heard
compared with the Boosters or Brewsters.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
But they slice their ice cream instead of scoop it.
Okay.
And then Bona Beef. So growing up in Chicago, there's 4 places in Chicago that do Italian beef, right? And one is Portillo's, which most people know about.
Yep.
One is very, very niche that I actually grew up walking distance from my high school that we ditched lunch to go. It's called Johnny's Beef. One is Al's Beef, which is
Yep, I've heard
inner
of
city,
Al's.
and then Bona. Bona is the one that went corporate. It's the
Okay.
one that kind of like got bought out by a hospitality group. But
More corporate than Portillo's.
Portillo's got sold, so he
Okay.
sold Portillo's.
There's
Okay.
been Portillo's in Murfreesboro.
There's a
been there
Portillo's in
Or are you thinking of
Indiana.
Potbelly?
No, I went to Portillo's.
There was a real
There's
Port-
no chance you went to Portillo's in Murfreesboro.
It's got to be something else then, something similar. Maybe it was somebody else at Portillo's.
So Portillo's is the equivalent of In-N-Out. It's like very, very huge local following.
This place was like it looked like a Pizza Hut on the inside, but they had grinders and stuff.
No,
like
so
that.
Portillo's looks like Martin's on the
Okay.
inside. It's very or
Okay.
like Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
Like they have a person that's like shopping for these antiques to put
Yeah, yeah,
inside.
yeah.
Huh. Okay, I'm curious what I went to then. But yeah, okay.
So, but Bona is probably my second favorite Italian beef in all of Chicago, and it's so good. There's zero chance this place does not succeed. It's one of those places where it's like first of all, you're gonna get every person that ever visited Chicago to go there. But it's a type of food that you will come back to every single time. It's like Amigos or like Me and Loretta's on steroids. It's something that we're like once it comes in, everyone's gonna be talking about like, yeah, I want my sub wet. Like
Yeah.
now people are like, what are you talking about wet? Like no, like once
Where they
bonus
dip-
here.
when they dip the sandwich in.
Yeah, and then just dip
the-
this thing in the
yeah.
sauce and the oils, and it's
Yeah.
like people like. I'm so excited for Nolensville to get those two businesses specifically because they're on a level of like Martin's and Tzatziki's where they're hospitality owned. There's like a big there's obviously like a big hospitality group that has like a bunch of these places that they're opening up. all over
Are
the
Bona and Rainbow connected? Like, are they both owned by the same
I
group?
don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if they are.
Because I couldn't understand how we were getting two.
Are they attached? Like physically attached? This building going to be this? Do we know?
I don't know. I don't know where
I
it's
just
going.
couldn't understand how we were getting
I'm
two
hope-
like Chicago kind of like almost iconic
The only thing I'm hoping
businesses,
for
unless they were part of the same group.
so I know that Jesse Alvarez is the investor that's opening up Bona.
okay,
Yeah.
So he lives in Nolensville.
right. Where are they going?
I have no clue. My only hope with this whole thing is that it's inside city limits because
Yeah.
they're gonna kill it. This is gonna be this like a Bona Beef is a place where every contractor goes for lunch.
Yep.
Every time you're like, well, where should we have dinner? You're gonna go to Bona. It's like the place. It's legitimately great food for a very, very good price, and it's like
Well, and obviously
hyped.
somebody could like write this off and just be like, "Oh, great, it's like another sandwich place, or
It's
or
not- no.
it's beef on bread with cheese, so it's basically a burger."
There's no cheese.
Like,
It
There's
sounds
no
like
cheese.
just-
what?
no
No
cheese.
Like-
cheese?
well, you can get cheese,
you can get
you can get it, but
that's
it's
New
not the
Jersey.
traditional.
I trust you, Mike, so much that I already can
It's
tell
hot
that when they
peppers.
try.
It's
Yeah.
giant. You see me going for it and like
Yeah.
So Chris mentioned and in a break we just had Chris mention to me that every time I touch this thing,
Yeah.
like Daniel's gonna have to.
I'll have to work on this.
Yeah, mute me. So I'm like, I'm going for it, and I'm like stopping.
It's like,
like,
yeah,
Mike's got hot
this looks great on
hands.
video.
yeah.
No, so I do think that it's like a it is enough of it's a unique style of food. It doesn't seem that unique, but like
Yeah.
compared to everything else we have in Nolensville, like it's a unique enough style that it will be very successful because people, they do what they do and they do it really well. This is why Amigos succeeds. It's because it's like, yes, we have other pizza places, but like Amigos is a family owned Italian restaurant that also happens to have pizza. They're not just a pizza place.
Martin's the same
and
way.
what they do is very
Tzatziki's-
specific, and they do it very well.
Yeah, Tzatziki's is gonna be the same way. Martin's the same
Yeah.
way. Outlanders, to their credit, are the same way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that Bona and Rainbow Cone are within city limits, just from like a resident standpoint. I want that sales tax revenue, but I'm super excited for those places to come into Nolensville area because it's like one of those things where like when like a basketball team that's been kind of like just grinding away, finally gets that all-star, and everybody starts to play up a level. Like that top player makes everybody else better. Like Bona and Rainbow Cove are on that level that once they come in, they're gonna set that bar from wherever that bar is. They're gonna set that a few notches higher. Where now you do have to perform to a certain extent, and it makes you try harder, makes you be better. Like from that point too. I mean, you cannot miss with those two businesses.
Yeah.
Well, that's like what you just said there, where one business comes in, kind of raises the bar, and everybody else starts performing up to that level. That's something that, you know, like my wife and I feel very strongly about. And like, you know, if we ever open a business around here, that's something that we would hope that we could achieve also. Like I think this town deserves it. Like that's the part of it. Like it's not, I think it's more, the onus is more on the business owners here in town to step up and provide that thing for the citizens than it is for the citizens to just kind of rally around some business that that isn't doing a good job.
Nobody out there is like, nobody is like saying like, oh, like Circuit City doesn't exist anymore because people like just were like, you know, and shopped at Best Buy instead. It's like,
are we all trying to get a beep in?
Yeah, exactly.
like, but like,
it's your turn, Mike.
You know, nobody was like approaching that conversation that way. It was like, no, like Circuit City like did what they did, and Best Buy did what they did, and people flocked to Best Buy at the time because they could get something cheaper, or the service was better, or there was something that made them, it was differentiating.
The people didn't revolt and choose Netflix over Blockbuster, and it's the people's fault.
Yeah, like this isn't, we're not like just like making these like theories up out of like thin air. Like this is just like economic theory and how things work. If there's competition, then naturally people are going to choose the thing that's either cheaper or fulfills their needs better. That's just how consumers think. And so I just don't see like why Nolensville's economy shouldn't just operate the way every economy operates, and like let's provide the foundation and give business owners the chance to compete in a real economy rather than the one we have right now.
To be fair, the anybody who goes on the 411 and says, "Oh, well, we just need to support small business more," number one, they either are being completely disingenuous or they have so much disposable income that they're cool with just burning money on stuff they don't need.
Yeah,
because nobody needs exactly what Nolensville provides,
right?
And only what Nolensville provides. So
well, you couldn't survive if you only shopped in Nolensville. I tried.
Exactly. It's like, that'd be great. It's almost like what's that the movie where the Super Size Me, where he lived on McDonald's only for whatever.
Except we don't have a McDonald's.
It's the same kind of thing. It's like you couldn't literally live on what Nolensville provides right now. So it's but it's this entitlement. It's this idea. It's this, and this circles back to what I brought up a while ago about the comment on the post about the parking lot being empty on Black Friday, being, well, what was the business? Tell me all the business names and what their schedule is and when why they decided. It's like, do you either are being disingenuous right now with that question, or you feel entitled to a research project for me to go do, to tell you the information, to explain to you why a whole bunch of businesses aren't having anybody come in on Black Friday. It's like maybe neither of those are reasonable, and maybe the explanation is this is a bad situation here.
Yep.
Right.
Overall, I think that's what we're all trying to get at is it's nobody's job to support terribly run small businesses. It's nobody's job to hold themselves up on a pedestal and say, look at how great I am. You can be as great as me if you only do what I do. virtue signaling, or it's nobody's job to say, look at how offended I am at what you just said about somebody. I'm going to be so offended, although I would say the same things behind closed doors about somebody else. You just had the guts to say it publicly, but I won't do it, aka pearl clutching. It's nobody's job to like fall in line with everybody else and just do what you want someone to do because it's someone's civic duty.
Right. I also think, isn't it interesting? So there was this whole commentary on the 411 about Black Friday and who was open, who wasn't open, why would they close their stores, all this kind of stuff. And I don't think any business owner is willing to come out and say that, like, well, we close our stores because people don't shop here on Black Friday. People go elsewhere.
Cool Springs.
Correct. But like, I just think it's ironic. It's like the big push in town is like, shop local. We don't want big box. But on Black Friday, guess where everyone goes? Where there's big box. Like, like the point I'm trying to make is that I think that Nolensville's having too narrow of a conversation and too narrow of an outlook on its economy, and thinking that I'm not at all advocating that we should go like hard into big box and just try and only have that. But I do think that selective big box plays would be smart, and for this reason, because like there are things that keep people in town.
That one day of the year.
It's not, but it's not one day of the year, and that there are selective big box stores that I could see having a very like I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but
so give me one that's not named Target.
No, I mean I think Target's a great example. I've been advocating for Target for like 2 or 3 years behind closed doors, but like
I think Target breaks the mold there, so that's why I excluded it.
I don't know. I'd have to think more about like what the specifics are, but I think the point I'm getting at is that like there are certain stores that I think could cohabitate with our current local economy and would actually drive more business, would keep more dollars in town because people wouldn't go elsewhere. And it's just the nature of how consumers work. So if somebody's going grocery shopping, if someone's going grocery shopping, well, guess what? They're going to buy lunch next door, and then oh well, I'm here getting lunch, so I'm going to go into the the knick-knack store.
That's why that's the whole.
You
entire
need all
reason.
of it, though. Is the point?
That's the whole entire reason why like the marketing behind those out parcels for sale on Jenna's Greenland is saying like it's grocery anchored, like. There's going to be a Publix there.
Correct.
Like that's why we're going to charge you $45 a square foot instead of the $30 you can get down the road, is because you're going to come to the grocery store and then you can get coffee here as well.
It's almost like certain types of commercial are beneficial to businesses.
I mean,
it's almost like that.
I think that the only big box store that's going to survive the next 10 years is grocery.
I agree.
I think grocery is the only thing, unless Amazon figures out a way to be more sufficient or efficient in delivering to you last minute. Like right now, I have a pickup truck outside your house. There's a gallon of milk that I got it twice daily when I got the beer. Like you need something like that, and Amazon can't fulfill like that last minute. The last minute affordable option.
Well, I think to kind of like wrap this up, though, I think that what's happening and what we're going to see is if you want to keep having this same conversation, if you are annoyed with this conversation we just had for almost 2 hours at this point.
Oh, this is going to be the worst received pod episode.
If you're annoyed by this conversation, though, then you should not really want the couple of candidates just got elected to have their way.
Yep.
Because what you're going to get is a whole bunch of strip malls full of businesses
that closed on Black Friday.
Exactly. They're closed on Black Friday, and some planning commission member who approved it saying, well, let's dig into the details, be transparent. It's like, no, why don't you look at like basic economics and say, this is a terrible situation. Yeah. Nobody should be in this in the first place. But if they are, it's not the people's fault. It might be your fault.
Yep.
It might be their fault, the business owner's fault for opening. But like, it's not this idea of like, if you build it, they will come. That's just not realistic.
Right.
But again, if you want to keep hearing this conversation happen, then I got two people who just got elected who you just need to tell them they're right, because you're going to get it.
So full circle, everything always comes back to Kate and Jessica.
Always. I mean, that's the entire reason this podcast exists.
I'm totally here for it.
It's one of those things like what you said, Mike, in the last episode about if you're right, then you're right, and it's great. Like with Haley being mayor.
Right.
But if you're wrong, then it's a better situation.
Right.
You want to be wrong almost. Not almost.
It's a win-win. You either end up being a genius or being better off.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to be wrong and have us be better off, which is this whole idea of.
I'm not sure about that.
I mean, like I said, we didn't get our way in the election, and now our podcast is better off for 2 years. But this is going to be insanity if this zoning ordinance doesn't pass, and we just get a whole bunch more strip malls. There's a Hardee's being built up in our town.
And that Hardee's is a drive-through only.
It's
a drive-through only.
Yeah,
they got rid of the dining option.
That's what zoning gets you.
The fact that, I mean, the inevitable reality is that what is going to happen as a byproduct of not going forward with like the proposed zoning is, yes, we are going to get more strip malls inevitably, but Nolensville is going to develop in a certain way that just locks us in for years and years and years to come. Like I'm not saying you can't go back, and I'm not saying that we can't annex and still grow and things like that, but I think people are being very, very narrow-minded with the vision that they're casting for the future. And why would we look at what hasn't worked in a bunch of other places and looked at where they're going now and where they're turning their vision to and saying, look, what we did for those 25 years, like it kind of worked, but like we need to figure out something else that's going to like really like right size the ship. So why would we look at those as inspiration and say, well, let's just follow what they did 25 years ago because it seemed to work out all right, and that's why they're all switching to the thing that we don't want to have happen. Like,
but I think the zoning ordinance passes, the caveat to that is I think it passes with the dumb. Let me get my bleep in. The dumbass. The dumbest talking points of like smart commercial growth, limited density. Town and country, where we forget about the town part.
Yeah,
like that's how I think, and I'm actually okay with that for the next 2 years. Like if we're gonna have the wrong people, in my mind, the wrong people in charge, just pause it, just lock it down. Let's hold.
I'm with you.
Get to it in 2 years.
I think that we will all be able to laugh our asses off for the next 2 years.
It's 2 beeps. I gotta get one more.
And we're not only gonna do it on this podcast, but we're gonna do it on the 411 too.
I love it. All right. Thanks for watching Small Town Charm. We'll see you next time. That's all we got. See you later. Bye for now.